Mopar enthusiasts and Dodge enthusiasts and Chrysler enthusiasts, it's going to get you, excited and be like, yes, this is exactly what we were hoping for. But there's a catch. What's up, gang, and welcome back to the Speedy's Garage YouTube channel. Quick update on the Demon 170. I've had zero problems. I'm a little over 2,000 miles on it now, a bunch of wide open throttle pulls in Mexico, a track day. There's a lot of discussion going around that there's something wrong with the spark plugs. I haven't touched mine. I pulled a couple and the gaps weren't .024 like Dodge is recommending now, so I'll probably eventually get that squared away, but the car's not throwing any misfire codes. I'm not seeing any misfires in data logs. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's kind of my motto. I think some of them did have trouble, and I'm not exactly sure why some do and some don't, but this one has been phenomenal thus far. And no oil leaks or anything else out of the ordinary, so I'm just driving it and enjoying it. I've got a couple of parts that have shown up here, and a pretty good sized drag race event is coming up in a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. But today's video is about the exciting news we got this week as Mopar, Dodge, Chrysler enthusiasts. Let's jump right into that. So let's talk about that news that came out this week. I think as Dodge, Mopar enthusiasts will probably all agree that Stellantis is taking the company the wrong direction. I don't think there's anything wrong with, and they probably need to have, and I've said this before, smaller, more fuel efficient, what I will call everyday driver cars. They need an electric option just so they can have something to offer people that want that. But completely abandoning the performance divisions, I'll call them, is a huge mistake. And they're sort of turning their back on what the brand has been known for at least for 10 or 12, maybe 15 years. And it's not going over well. You've got a European company running the show, and my opinion is that as a European company, they don't understand the American consumer, particularly when it comes to a performance car, muscle car, that type of character in a vehicle. So some information started to come out this week that the great-grandson of Walter P. Chrysler, who is the person who started the Chrysler Automobile Company way back in like 1925, 1924, somewhere around in there. His great-grandson has now basically come out and written a, we'll call it a letter. It probably should have been a business proposal, more on that in a minute, but he wrote a letter to Carlos Tavares, the CEO of Stellantis, basically calling them out for all of the weird decisions that they've made. They put people in positions of very high seniority, CEOs and things of that nature, making big dollars that haven't put any effort into the divisions they're responsible for, Chrysler being one of those. And I won't name names because that's, not what we're going to do. But he writes this 17-page basically letter and kind of tells them basically they don't know what they're doing. They're wasting all this money. They don't know the American consumer. It goes on. And he basically says he wants to form a Chrysler America company, and he wants, I believe it was the Chrysler, Dodge, and Plymouth brand names back. And he wants to bring those back to the United States. He wants to have a company that runs those internally to the US and reopen some of the closed assembly plants and manufacturing plants and things of that nature. And hey, when you start reading through it, Mopar enthusiasts and Dodge enthusiasts and Chrysler enthusiasts, it's going to get you, excited and be like, yes, this is exactly what we were hoping for. But there's a catch. On the surface, this all looks like, hey, this guy's the great-grandson. He's probably got some ties in with, Chrysler as a family. He probably has some funds or some folks he could get to invest, and maybe this is a legit thing. But when you start to do a little bit of research, which I have, I want to start by saying I don't want to come off as Debbie Downer, and I wish this gentleman, Frank B. Rhodes Jr., the absolute best in success. And if we have an opportunity to make it a crowdsourced project, I would be the first one in line to volunteer to help, donate some money, whatever we thought we could do to bring back a brand that I've quite frankly fallen in love with. I wasn't always a Dodge fan, so I wasn't Mopar or no car growing up my whole life, but I've had 3 Dodge Challengers. It's the only car I've bought that many of, and I've loved them. The 170's been an amazing car. I love the design, I love the power, I love the character, and I would love to see Chrysler, Dodge, Plymouth come back, be able to produce cars like that, but also have some divisions that could help them be more profitable, meet EPA standards much more easily. And you got to remember, we're sort of a niche market. If you're watching this channel, you're probably a performance enthusiast. We're the niche of the group. The average American or the average Joe, they want a car that gets them back and forth to work reliably, as cheaply as possible, and as comfortably as possible, where we're more interested in the performance aspects. Like a lot of us like to go drag race and we want a lot of horsepower, and I'll live with a rattle here or a squeak there to have more horsepower and a better time at the track, a little bit, more firm ride, I'll call it. I like those types of things. I like the sound and the noise coming from the cars. And most of us probably aren't super interested in a full-on EV either. Now, I think we'd be interested in some kind of performance option where maybe it's all-wheel drive, maybe it's 700-800 horsepower, maybe it has a V8 engine with a hybrid system to run the front two tires to make it all-wheel drive. I would be interested in something like that. I am not interested in a 100% electric vehicle today. The technology and the charging stations, and there's a million reasons. You guys can go ahead and list them yourselves of why we're not ready for that. But remember, I said there was a catch to all of this. That catch is money. So if you go back and look, this isn't the first time Frank B. Rhodes Jr. has sent something like this or suggested something like this. And you can actually find way back in 2009 when some of the FCA stuff was starting to be a discussion, he was petitioning to take the company back over. So this has been happening for a really long time, and I may get some of the dates here wrong, so forgive me if I do. It's a lot of information, but what it boils down to is he has written this 17-page letter. He's saying he wants to get a company together to basically buy back the Dodge, Chrysler, Plymouth name brands from Stellantis and make them an American company again. Again, super great idea. However, if you go back and actually do a little checking, when Fiat completed the acquisition of Chrysler, the Chrysler group, it was a huge transaction to the tune of, and I'm looking at this now, $4.9 billion with a B, and that was straight up cost, and there was an additional $5.5 billion, again with a B, in pension liability. So you're talking about a astronomical amount of money, and unfortunately Frank B. Rhodes Jr. doesn't own any Chrysler stock anymore. I think he has some Stellantis stock based on the document that he wrote. He says it's not making him any money, and he actually has ran a furniture store where he makes furniture, and that's sort of been his livelihood since the middle 80s or early 80s. So he hasn't been involved in anything to do much with Chrysler as a corporation or as an automobile manufacturer. I don't know ever. He collects some Chrysler vehicles and he has access to some of those, and he has a museum and a lot of memorabilia, but from a straight out business perspective, it doesn't read to me like it's real. I mean, the 17-page document the gentleman wrote, I would almost question if he wrote it. It is full of typos, misspellings, grammatical errors. It basically calls out Carlos Tavares for not being a very intelligent guy business-wise. And if you're trying to buy something from somebody, unless you're doing a hostile takeover, that's just not going to go well, to be honest. It's going to get wadded up and thrown in the trash if it ever gets to Carlos anyway. And then even in one spot, the spelling of the word Chrysler or the name Chrysler is even wrong. It's spelled with an I instead of a Y. So to miss something like that in a 17-page tirade, I'm going to call it. I hate to say it that way, but that's pretty much what it is. He's mad that they don't have the museum anymore. He's mad about the Belvedere assembly plant. He's upset that there aren't any improvements or finances going into the Chrysler name, which are all valid points. But if you're making a business proposal, it needs to be about dollars and cents. Like, hey, Carlos, I don't think you're going to do much with Dodge, Chrysler, Plymouth. I want to buy them from you. What's your price? And let's start negotiating. I'm going to take it back over. And he doesn't, Carlos, if he's going to sell the names, he won't care what the business plan is. So Frank kind of goes into a lot of, here's what I'm going to do if we get the company, and here's how I'm going to do it. Carlos won't care about any of that unless he's thinking somehow Carlos lets him take Chrysler, Dodge, Plymouth back over and run it somehow with his own team, and then funnel some of those profits back up to Stellantis. But that's not going to work. That hasn't worked so far. Stellantis kind of came in, dropped the hammer on a bunch of stuff. Tim Knissis has left. All the engineers are gone. SRT was disbanded. So they aren't moving the direction that the brand was going before. And I think one of the big reasons that Stellantis we're all EV is government money. Again, it's all about the money. Car companies are around for the purpose of making money, and the Biden administration has offered a lot of money if these car companies will start to focus on EV production. I've got another article here, and I'll share some of these little clips with you so you can see them. But the Department of Energy plans to award Stellantis $334.8 million to convert the Belvidere assembly plant to build EVs. $338 million. Or $334.8 million, and another $250 million to convert the Indiana transmission plant in Kokomo to produce EV components. So 334 and 250, what's that? 6, almost $600 million to start focusing on EVs. And I believe there's some other incentives there too. It's probably up closer to $900 million that Stellantis is going to get just to say, hey, we'll focus on EVs. And I wonder how any of this stuff is even going to be tracked. So that's our tax dollars, just so you know. If you're a United States citizen watching this and you're working, paying taxes, that's your tax dollars going to fund these companies to do EV things, whether you believe in an EV or not. Why not let the EV stand on its own? If it sells great, let them make a profit. If it doesn't, let them pivot and do hybrids or something else that does make sense, and let us as consumers determine what the business provide. I'll buy what I want to buy is kind of the bottom line. But anyway, it's back to that money and back to that mighty dollar that I was talking about before. You got this $4.9 billion sale, and that was back in 2014. That's 2014 dollars. It's probably $6-7 billion in today's money, probably, if I were to go to look at an inflation calculator. And now you've got all this money that they're providing or being provided by the government to focus on their EV strategy. I'm not sure that Mr. Rhodes Jr., Frank B. Rhodes Jr. can pull that kind of money off with investors. Investors, a lot of them, if you're kind of raise that kind of capital, you're not going to get everybody that wants to be or is a car enthusiast. Not that you couldn't raise quite a bit of money. I don't think you're going to raise billions with a B. So I think that's going to be the two problems. And then again, if you go back and look, and you can Google this and find it, it was August 26, 2024. And it's to Mr. Carlos Tavares, CEO of Stellantis, and Miss Christine Fuel, Chrysler brand CEO. And it's proposal to reinvigorate the iconic Chrysler, Dodge, Plymouth, Mopar brands, keep them in the USA with stockholder and employee control. It's all about the money. I don't think Frank B. Rhodes Jr. is going to be able to collect enough. And again, if you go back and look, this has all been going on since at least what I could find, 2009. So again, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but some of these stories get out and they act like it's a brand new thing, and hey, somebody's going to come in and swoop in and save the Dodge brand from Stellantis. And if that happens, I don't think it's going to be this. I always try to tell you guys and be the voice of reason. I try to back my information up that I put out with facts and references, and I'll be able to, I'll put some of this in this video so you can see where I can get my information and form my own opinion. So tell me what you think. Do you think Frank B. Rhodes Jr. can actually save Dodge, Plymouth, Chrysler from Stellantis? Leave me some comments and let me know if I got it completely wrong. That's it for today. Super short, just trying to set the record straight for some people before everybody gets too excited. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's @Speedies_garage, as well as the website, www.speediesgarage.net. Stay tuned for some changes to the Demon 170 and a big drag racing event coming up.